My name's Dr. Дэвид Биш, and do you know where I've come from? There's a lot of different answers, good. It's a bit complicated, I'm sorry. So I am English, I come from England, but actually my office is in Switzerland, because I'm in charge of all of our language teaching for young people worldwide for EF. So I basically write books. So it means I don't travel very much because I write lots of books. So it's very nice to come out and meet real students. A long time ago I was a school teacher, and then a university teacher, and then a teacher trainer, and now I have something like 3,000 teachers who work for me. So I'm very lucky. So I prepare materials, but then also I travel a lot. And they wanted me to talk to you about, I guess I'll talk about me a little bit and traveling, but also about international careers and starting your international career. Is that what you want to hear about?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah? Good, excellent. So that's me, and I'm quite a new doctor. But be careful, I am not a medical doctor, okay? My girlfriend always tells me this. I have to say I'm not a medical doctor, just so nobody have any problems, all right? So I'm going to talk about international travel and learning and international communication. But that's me. I have a room full of people, so many of you. But what are you all students here? Are you students at university or at school? So all university students. Yeah. And how many years of universities have you studied so far?
Two.
So your second years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you all study the same thing? Are you business students or? No.
We're philologists.
Philologists. That's a very fancy word. Can you believe we don't use the word philology much in England? Right, so I mean, I guess, are you thinking about being translators and interpreters and things?
Yes.
And teachers as well? Okay, let's have a show of hands. Who wants to be a teacher? They don't pay you enough money, but it's a lot of fun, okay? So I can recommend that job. Who wants to be a translator?
As well.
Oh, okay, that's good. You can make more money, so that's quite nice, right? I actually have a friend who, his last choice of job, and this guy, he speaks 5 languages fluently. It's called Giorgio. It's amazing. Right now he's in Milan, unfortunately. He went to Milan and they won't let him out. Right? So he's stuck in Milan. I hope I can travel after this. But so Giorgio speaks all these languages, and his last career choice, and he's more or less my age, he's been choosing things all his life. His last career choice was to be the head translator for the top bank in Switzerland. So be the head translator for all of their kind of brochures and publicity campaigns and all this. And in Switzerland we speak 4 languages, so it's quite a lot. Or to come and work on my team in teaching. And he works with our adult students around the world. And he made the right choice, and he came into the teaching thing, and he really enjoys it. But he'd been working for banks and businesses for years and years, and then he jumped out of business. So again, teaching is more fun, but I think Giorgio had to decide between like money and focused work and something a bit more creative. So he finds teaching a little difficult. He's more of a businessman. I know I have a suit, but that doesn't mean I'm a businessman. So we had translators. Does anyone want to be an interpreter? I thought about that one.
It's difficult.
That is so difficult. Okay. Yes. So respect to you if you can do that. Usually I don't have a interpreter, because I'm lucky enough to speak to people who are studying English. Last year I gave a TED talk in Krasnodar. It was TEDx in Krasnodar, not far away, right across the bridge down over there. And this one was translated kind of simultaneously with an interpreter. But because everything I do is a little specialized, she and I had to practice for a long time, and I've done the same in Colombia, in Latin America, where when you work with a simultaneous translator, very often, and I don't know if you practice this in your classes, but you will sit down with them for maybe half an hour and have a kind of an interview, and they talk about all the things you talk about, and they try to get in your head. So they know all the phrases I use a lot. I will say microblending lots of times, and I will say task-based learning, and they want to know what that means, so that when they copy what I'm saying, it makes some logical sense. So it's quite fascinating to work with an interpreter, because really they have to think a little like you. So it must be amazing to be an interpreter, to meet people and to kind of get inside their head a little bit, and then talk. It's something like being a TV interviewer, but more exciting, so more engrossing. So to be honest, I think that's very challenging work, but it can be quite fun. I have a friend who is English. His name is also David, and he was an interpreter for an English politician in England. But the English politician had a speech impediment, so nobody could understand him except his interpreter. And so and you don't know exactly what he's saying. So he made some famous speeches for a little while, and all of his famous speeches were my friend's words, my friend David. So if you are an interpreter also, or a translator, of course, sometimes when you see a quote with somebody's name, actually you said that. That's quite cool, even though you're a little bit hidden behind. So it's quite nice work. I think with teachers, you see students learning, and that's exciting, but you don't really see them use their language at the end. Translators and interpreters, maybe you get your results a little quicker. So certainly, I'm trying to talk a little bit about the motivations of this. Why you should be doing it. And I think those are there are some very motivating, fulfilling careers. Is anybody else planning to do anything different with your languages, with your philology? So we've got teachers, we've got interpreters, translators. Anything else? No? Okay, it's a pretty good start. And you've all chosen English, is that right? Yeah? I mean, I guess you're all speaking English right now, so I hope so. Do you do other languages as well?
Yeah. German,
Spanish, German,
and French.
French, some Greek. Somebody was talking to me in Chinese just now. Anyone else do Chinese here? No? No Korean? No? Okay, you will guess this because of when I say it, but which of EF schools, so we have schools around the world, which of the languages we teach, and we currently teach 9 languages, I think, which of our languages has grown the quickest in popularity right now? No. And we've been teaching Chinese for about almost 10 years, and it's kind of no. Korean, right? Yeah. Why?
Because of K-pop.
Because of K-pop. Because Korean is cool, right? So honestly, we did an experiment. This is business. I'm talking. Don't tell. My colleague's not here, right? Okay. So it's business secrets from EF. We decided Korean was catching on when we had the Olympics. And so for the Olympics, EF is actually the official language service provider for the Olympics. So we had the Olympics in Brazil and in Sao Paulo. So you have to say Brazil, right? In Sao Paulo, we had in the Olympic Village, we had a hospitality center and a teaching center, but we taught languages online. For the volunteers and so on, and we've also worked with the Russian World Cup, for example. We teach the volunteers for free with online lessons and some face-to-face. When we did the Brazil one, this was really exciting because the Brazilian government said, okay, yeah, you can teach people English, but we want you to teach Portuguese as well. Because in Brazil, there's a very big issue with illiteracy. A lot of people can't read and write in Brazil. So we taught for free 1.5 million people reading and writing in their own language for the Olympics. And so that was a kind of cool thing about Brazil, but I was talking about Korea. So in Korea, we did the same. We had this little Olympic set up, and we think, okay, we're going to teach some journalists in our Korean school, because everybody wants to learn English, right? But actually, so many people want to learn Korean. So we thought we'd have a little school for maybe journalists, maybe some sports people who were working in around the Olympics, and we had a little place in our Olympic village, like hospitality zone, it's like something fun and free. And that got so busy, we had to open in our main office in Seoul 2 classrooms. Then the next year we had to build a school. Now our school in Korea is full, and we have to build a second school in Korea. Meanwhile, Chinese is like, no. Arabic, we teach Arabic. Arabic is like, no. Korean is, because of K-pop, because it's cool. I don't know, what's it, Girls' Generation or whatever. Do you know any K-pop? I don't. No? I heard of Girls' Generation because I Googled it, but that's the rest. Okay, so you guys aren't going to come to the Korean school. But, of course, in an international career, really, one language is good, but to work at EF, for example, and we employ, I've said right now I've got about 3,000 teachers and leaders working with me. But we say in our publicity, I think now we employ 56,000 people worldwide. Actually, most of those people are working, like Camilla, who you may have seen here, who are working in we're kind of reaching customers, sales, explanations, maybe also things like, when you said philologists, digital marketing, copywriting, brochure production. A lot of work in those areas, especially digital right now. But I have to say that EF especially, we are very committed to brochures, and here are some of our beautiful brochures. And these brochures go out in, I'm not sure exactly, but over 20 different languages. And they're very nicely and carefully designed, but when you change the language, that space changes. Or maybe even that picture doesn't really work in Russia. You should have something else, because of local feelings about things. So there's a lot of work in this, and we have one of our I like telling stories. Forgive me. Another one of the people I work with, a lady called Evelina. Evelina is a school director of our schools in London, and she's Polish. And she said when she was growing up, she used to collect the EF brochures. Because every year it came out and she was like, oh, look at all these amazing places you can... And used to come through their letterbox and land on the floor, and she used to go grab it and take it off to her bedroom, sit down on her bed and dream about traveling. And now she works like high up in the organization, and she says she still has the brochures. You don't get that kind of passionate attachment to digital. And I know you all, you study a lot of books, and probably there's at least one person here who loves the smell of a new book when you open it. Yeah? Okay. So you've got a bookshelf at home, maybe a nice comfortable chair, or you dream of having that one day. So this print is very important. So there's a lot of work in print as well, and a lot of work for people who speak multiple languages. I'm quite lucky because I work so heavily with English. People expect me to speak English, but I can do a few other languages if I really try. So when you're going for an international role, just English won't do it these days. You need one or two other languages. And certainly in our company, for any role, possibly teaching is an exception, although teaching is very important, and working, like if you're a football coach or something for EF, and we have a lot of football coaches, then those you can get away with just speaking the language of the country. But everything else, we expect you to have at least 2 or 3 languages and speak those. So one main thing of getting an international career, you're there already, you're going to need more than just putting your hope on one language. In a minute, I'm going to talk about workplace communication and what's important. Okay, so I'm going to give you 2 different questions. Really, the first question: what would be the difference between communication and conversation? Okay, that's the first question. And if you decide you have a good answer for that, oh, by the way, I have prizes. If you think you have a good answer to that, I want you to go on to what things you can say are most important for effective
Conversation.
whichever one of the two you thought was most important. Okay, so first communication and conversation, discuss, then you decide, okay, one of these is the key thing, this is what we need to be talking about, and can you give me any kind of recipe for the important parts of that? Okay, so I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes. I'll get the projector up and I'll come back and help you a little bit as you're going, all right?
Communication is the part of conversation, because conversation is when people talk without any goals or even result isn't important. And communication is when you give an information to a man and he gets it from him.
Okay, so you think it's something about goals? What were you
So
going to say?
I believe that communication is a little bit wider than conversation.
So communication's the
Yeah,
meta
it's-
term?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
because communication might be completely different, and maybe it's not really. You don't really need to like understand the feelings of the person you're talking to, but when it comes to conversation, we usually try to like understand deeply thoughts, and maybe to like feel inside the message.
So conversation view has more feeling.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
so you said
and
communication had
something-
aims, you had
something
conversation has
more,
feeling.
Conversation is something like closer
Okay.
between.
Okay, some more ideas over here. Let's keep going. This is great.
So probably conversation is a little talk between people because we speak now, but communication is wider, as some girl said before. But communication is it's tricky things because we are communicating even right now with the technology, nature, other people, and with the different equipments. So I think we think that communication is wider, but conversation is probably between people.
What's that other word we use as well for different ways that the message comes into us? I guess you use this in your philology. You had the word, yes? I was going to say channels. Have you used that?
Yes.
Like on television channels.
Yeah,
But-
recipients and
like sender and receiver.
Yes,
But we've also got different channels. So like you said, there's possibly the channel of reading. Yeah, and so far I don't think anyone's actually said, you touched on it, conversation is about talking, right? But communication can be wider. Were you going to add anything to that? I'm sorry.
Conversation is a part or maybe kind of communication,
Yeah.
and the communication is wider than the conversation.
Yeah, so I mean, we're all touching on the same things. As the meta term is communication, and conversation is one specific type, which I think the ladies here have defined as something which is quite empathetic, quite personal and cozy, comfy, right? And also, but kind of aimless. Conversation can be just like friendly, right, to make you warm and fuzzy. And quite a lot of, I don't know if you studied the biology of conversation or communication at all.
Yeah, we
Yes, a
studied
little
that.
bit. So you know that when you make eye contact with someone, right, it's very hard, and it's working already, it's very hard to make eye contact with someone and then not to smile at you. So I'm looking around at people that I don't even know right now, who don't know me, and I look at them and they smile back. It's very hard to look at someone and go, you know, it just doesn't happen. When we make eye contact, we start to listen better. This is one reason why face-to-face communication is often more effective than digital communication. Even though young people in the workplace, and I have some slides on this, young people in the workplace tend to prefer more digital communication. We're more effective at face-to-face communication because what happens when you make eye contact, it increases the flow of blood and oxygen to your head, which oxygenates your brain, which makes you think faster. right? And you're hardwired to do that. So biologically, when you start, you kind of smile, which means like, I'm ready, talk to me, signal open, you open the channel, and your brain is fired up to continue communicating. So it is quite an important skill to make eye contact with people. And I'm getting some lovely smiles around the room, and as I get the smiles, I feel good. And as I feel good, I'm like, I'm going to tell you more of a story, and I relax, and because I relax, we connect better. Right? Now, if I'm stood up there on the stage, I'm like talking like this to the back of the room like a robot, you're not listening, and I don't care. Right? But if we make this eye contact, we can very well do something. Which I'll maybe give you a few tricks in a minute. Other one. I mean, the eye contact is a very important thing. Make eye contact with people. If you are speaking to a group, if you become a teacher, if you're just giving a presentation in the workplace, or you're translating, don't just look at one point in the middle of the room. Engage all of your audience. Take their temperature, try and feel whether they're with you, and they'll be more with you. And if people are kind of, what are you talking about? Or if you can keep enjoying it, right? So it is important to make that. It's a simple trick, but it's about communication. And I'm not just saying this for fun, it will help your career. If it's a job interview or if it's a presentation, you want people to think, oh, this person's easy to talk to, right? And communicate. So another secret about EF. I've been with EF, this company now, for 17 years. So a lot of my business experience is with EF, so it's where I talk from. And one of the things we have in our job interview is this person that you're interviewing somebody who you'd like to sit next to at the Christmas party? Right? And that is a serious thing on our ticket. We don't ask them, we don't say, hey, would you like to come to the Christmas party with me? No, but you actually rate people on whether or not you would be bored stupid sitting next to them on a Christmas party or not. Okay, I'm gonna turn a couple of slides on. I said we were talking about communication. I don't have it on the slide here, but so which is more important then, communication or conversation?
Communication.
Conversation is important in its own right, but I think generally in the workplace we're talking about communication at some point. And the thing about conversation is it's one kind of communication that's often a bit aimless. It's fun and it's good. And if you're working in an international workplace, and I work a lot with international workplaces like Google and even Yandex. I've even heard of them, right? Up in St. Petersburg, we have Yandex. I did some professional business training with speakers there in our St. Petersburg office. And it's important there, even in a Russian workplace, to be able to casually talk to people, to have casual conversations, because they open up opportunities for further talking. So it's not conversation is useless, it does have a role, but communication usually has an aim each time, right? It's message based. In conversation you do something you probably all know called topic shifting. So if you find something someone likes, you go that way. If you find something, right, we'll try a little exercise in that in a minute. So I hope I have something here. So these were the 7 C's of perfect communication, right? But unfortunately, my projector's broken and I can't see them. Can anyone remind me what they were? These are 7 C's of perfect communication. I'm lucky, I have them on my screen here. You can't see them?
Complete.
Complete? Are we going to get a point for complete?
Yeah.
I think that's number 2. So I'm doing chocolates now. Is that all right? They're Swiss. You can give it to someone else if you don't enjoy chocolate yourself. Yes. Sorry.
Considerate.
Ooh, close. If you can do the pronunciation better, I'll give you 2 chocolates. Consideration, yeah, but considerate. Remember, considerate, consideration. And being as you're so keen, I'll give you one as well. Yeah, but don't answer the next question. Let someone else get in there. Okay.
Confident.
Confident. That's very good. Confident. Can I throw it? Are you confident about catching it? Yeah. Clear. I think it said clear, not clean, but same thing. So that's about pronunciation. A lot. Yes. The aim. It wasn't a C though, was it? Because aim doesn't begin with C. So how could we... Pardon? I tell you what, you're so keen, you're going to earn the chocolate in a minute, right? But you can't have this. I'm trying to be fair here, yeah? Because other people are going, so you got a chocolate. Sorry? Pardon?
It was check.
Check was at the end. You said check as well. I'm sorry, I didn't catch you, but I'll give you a chocolate because you're so keen again. So check. There we are. So checking is very important. If you're ever going to be a teacher, teachers these days, they talk about something called CCQs. Put that up. If you're a note-taking person, wrong computer. Thank you very much. If you're a note-taking person or a picture-taking person, you can take a picture now. CCQs is what teachers always do at the end. They always check back the instructions in some way by making sure, with some sort of question to students. They don't say, what were the instructions? They ask in a subtle way to make sure. Like, who do you have to work with? Do you have to write this down or do you have to speak? So teachers always check that. They're good at that. Confident is important. And from our conversation earlier, you were saying that it's important to have empathy in a conversation, but it's also important, see we've got considerate there, it's also quite important to know your audience, because of course you have this shared knowledge. And there are some things, so as I'm talking to you now, I'm trying to talk quite a lot about teaching, classrooms, Russia, EF, language study abroad, and so on, because I know that you'll relate to those things. If you were all business studies students, I would actually talk in a different way. And so I'm deliberately trying to be, not to be patronizing and just talk down to you, but talk so that we have a connection. So you do that. Also, maybe I'm a little bit more relaxed and informal than I was with the teachers in the room just now, because teachers like to hear long words. And they like to hear words in books that they've read. So they go, oh yeah, I know that. and they feel validated, but maybe you guys are a bit more chilled out at the moment. So, conversational is actually important in conversation. So like I said about chilled out, it's important in conversation, but also communication doesn't have to be so strict and dogmatic. If it's so formulaic, you can lose your audience, we say. So again, these are important things. And concise, so we don't talk too much, right? I'm a terrible example of something I probably put on the slide. Kiss versus kill. Okay, it's your chance to talk again in English. See if you can work out what kiss means. You might have heard this one before, you might not have heard. They're acronyms, right? So they're made of letters, first letters of words, and this is a hint to you when you're communicating. You should follow the rules of kiss rather than the rule of kill. See if you can work it out. Have a chat, just a couple of together, and if I hear some beautiful English, I'll give you chocolate. All right? Off you go. It's got the word concise wrapped in it. Which is the good one? Okay, which is the good one? Kiss or kill? What do you think? Kiss is good. Kill is bad. You don't want to kill your audience. This is never the aim of any kind of communication, right? So kiss.
Information.
No. Good guess.
The contact with your audience.
I like that. It's a good answer. It's not what I was going for at all. Keeping contact is good. We have contact now, the chocolate. Okay. Keep it simple. Okay, we're getting there. We're getting more chocolate. I've got a whole packet to give away. Keep it simple, and the last message is to the person. Keep it simple, stupid. Right, so it's a message from me. Keep it simple, stupid. Right? Instead of keep it long and loud. Right? So don't keep it long and loud. A lot of people think when they speak to an audience, they have to shout out like, actually, it's better if you're quiet. And another thing you probably learned, it's also better if you're slower when you speak to people. You don't sound clever by speaking very fast. Believe me, I can speak English very fast. but you don't get it. I have to do a few tricks to emphasize the words that I'm using. Let me give you an example. Can we play a little game? Is that right? Yeah. I'm going to speak a sentence, and it's actually written on it's written on this computer here, and it's written on this computer here, and on this computer here, I can see the important words in this sentence. Right? But you can't. Unfortunately, this sentence is not in English, and it's not in Russian either. So it's in a language you've probably never heard before, I hope. As I speak it, all you need to do is tell me what were the 3 important things that I want you to remember. Okay, so I'm going to give a short presentation in this language none of you have heard before, and I just want you to try and remember the 3 important bits of information from my talk. Okay? Let's try this. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, what were the 3 important things?
5,
12, 20.
You're saying 5, 12, and 16?
5, 10, and 16.
5, 12, 16.
5, 12, 16. Any other offers?
20.
20? And 20 was supposed to be like the goodbye at the end, which of course is very important because it's chatty. So I hope if I got it right, let's just see. 5, 12, and 16. Okay? So let's try that again. Now you can see the subtitles. Ready? It'll probably be a little bit different because I'm never the same exactly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 13, 14, 15, 16. 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay? So 20 did sound a bit because it was where I finished. So I suppose 20 is also important. But now, speak English together, what did I do? Because even though you had no idea what I was saying, you knew that 3 things were supposed to be important. So what did I do to make them important? And as philologists, this should be easy. So lots of chocolate. Let's try. I tell you what, I'm going to give... I have a big prize for this one. If anyone can give me exactly 3 things that I did to make each of those things stand out. So talk together is a big prize. Talk as a group first, and you can have for your group. Sort of put their hands up. So as I did let's call it the 5, 12, 16 exercise, what was the way in which I highlighted those 3 points?
We think it is stress, pause, and intonation.
Where was the pause, do you think?
After.
You say both before and after. Okay, and you said stress.
After.
So the word was stressed. Can you give me mechanically what I did to stress? Nobody else shout out because I know there's another group I said about stress. Mechanically, how did I stress that?
by the accent.
Them?
Just stress.
Okay, now I said I'd ask this group next, so I'm going to ask them next. What?
Well, I guess you just put the emphasis on the important words with little pauses, and you make gestures with your hands.
Okay, gestures was another thing.
Yeah.
You do it too, I can see. Yeah.
And I think you make kind of an eye contact with the audience when you say something important, so you get the feedback from them.
Okay, so it's good that you've got the paralinguistics, as we say, in there as well. So I sort of nod my head so you know I'm looking at me, right? And I sort of do this, which is fairly schoolboy. It's fairly simple, but it works. But I'm still, maybe this group can answer because, can you give me anything about the mechanics of what I actually do when I stress a word in English in this context?
Well, you somehow just stopped it before the word.
Yeah.
To make it important for us, to make us listen to you, just with this pause, and somehow afterwards you were softer.
Okay.
Faster.
I was quieter, if you mean softer by that. So I think there's 3 characteristics of that stressed word. And I'm not sure anyone's going to, I'm going to go to, so I think, how many of these have I got? Do we still have t-shirts? No, we don't. Okay. But what we also had is it's slightly louder and it's slightly higher pitched, and it's slightly longer. Right, so that technically is what we do in English. I know Russian intonation's a bit different, right? Yeah? Yoi, как интересно. Right? I think that's Russian for wow, how interesting. Right? But in English it's all about going up in the air, but in Russian it's a bit more, right? So in English it's quite high pitched and some pauses, okay? So I will spare you more of my terrible Russian. I promise not to do that again. So it's important to be high pitched. So internationally, if you want to do that in your English, high pitched. In French, it's even longer. Okay, so in French it's longer and the pitch is less important. Okay, German I haven't quite worked it out yet, but it involves a lot of spitting, and I won't do that. We talked a little bit about international careers so far. I thought I quite like to do this video. It's quite fun about people communicating in an international context, right? And there's a few things that kind of people can get wrong when they're communicating in an international context and misunderstand, okay, about how things happen. And so when you take somebody from one international context and put them into another, we get this where we have two cultures, we get, what's that called? Culture something. Culture. We get a culture clash. A culture clash, when two cultures come together. And this is something internationally to watch out for. Okay, this is a little warning. So this is in a funny way, but this is just something to look out for and be aware of, the kind of things that you might do because of your culture when you're in international situation. So you need to sort of think a little bit carefully about not being too strongly your own culture sometimes, so that you don't do things that embarrass you or make you look foreign or embarrass the other person. So here's a couple of light-hearted examples, if that's all right. We've got time for a little video? Yeah.
In some Asian cities, it's considered acceptable for a commuter to fall asleep.
Sorry, it didn't freeze. Where do we think we are? Where was that guy? In underground? Where in the underground? Where do you think? If you were to guess a country anywhere in the world, now actually the voiceover isn't so good. They said Asia, right? So it's in a place somewhere in Asia. And what's happening? He's on the underground, he's coming home from work, he's had a long day. He's tired.
He's very tired.
He's very tired. So what's he going to do?
Fall asleep.
He's falling asleep. I don't think in Sevastopol there is an underground. Am I right? Okay, so we have to imagine now. What do you think might happen next? Okay, I won't interrupt it again. We're just going to watch a bit, and then I'll pause it because there's another situation. But I want.
In some Asian cities, it's considered acceptable for a commuter to fall asleep on the shoulder of a stranger. In New York,
This is New York.
it's quite a different story. Of course, it can always adapt. We're the global band that never underestimates the importance of local knowledge.
So what happened? Change reaction, okay. They used a word there. You could, it's not to adapt. Yeah, so he adapted and he adopted that Asian behaviour. Obviously, there was a kind of little bit of love story going on there as well. But so the tough American New Yorker. I often show this video to kids and I stop them, and they say, as he's about to fall asleep, what's going to happen next? And of course, they think it's going to be a fight, but the American was very sensitive in this situation. Okay, I'm going to show you one more like this. Okay, and I'll try and pause it this time and ask your thoughts on what's happening and why it's happening. Okay, just one more.
always adapt, that never underestimate. Local bank that never underestimates the importance of local knowledge. HSBC, the world's local bank.
The English believe it.
Okay, I'll try and get back to that point. So, maybe I could have turned the sound there. Where was the guy from who was in the suit? He was the Englishman. You see, we always wear suits when we go. What country do you think he was in? I think it was specifically China. I think they do say Chinese in a minute. Okay, so he's in China and they're having a lovely dinner, right? Yeah, is that traditional? You'd eat that kind of thing here? Yep, possibly. Do you think the Englishman likes it? It's strange for him. So in this case, who paid for the dinner? Yes, it's a business dinner, right? Maybe they had a great meeting, maybe he's just decided to buy a car company or something and it's all going well, and they took him to a nice dinner afterwards. How does the English guy feel right now? Yeah? I'm going to help you one. Everybody, sorry, teachers in the background. Uncomfortable. Not uncomfortable, right? Uncomfortable, too many, right? Uncomfortable. So we're going to lose the fort, okay? Everybody, uncomfortable. Uncomfortable. 1, 2, 3. Uncomfortable. Uncomfortable. Comfortable. Uncomfortable. Awesome, right? I feel like I taught you something now, right? When we walk out the room, everyone has to say to me, David, thank you, that was uncomfortable. Okay. That'll be funny and you'll remember it, right? So the Englishman is definitely uncomfortable. What's he going to do?
No. He's just eating.
He's going to eat it?
Try.
Do you think he'll eat all of it? Okay, let's see what happens, okay? Uncomfortable.
The English believe it's a slur on your host's food if you don't clear your plate. Whereas the Chinese feel you're questioning their generosity if you do. At HSBC, we never underestimate the importance of local knowledge. Which is why we have local banks staffed by local people in over 80 countries across the globe. HSBC, the world's local bank.
Okay, let me just give you 30 seconds just to check together and I want a few ideas of what happened and why that happened like that. Okay? I think you heard.
In China, they have tradition. So if your meal is served, you never should eat like the whole plate because it will mean that the portion wasn't big enough, and
right.
Because
you're very hungry.
Yeah, like you're very hungry or portion was small, and for
Okay, so they didn't give you everything you needed.
Yeah.
And was you satisfied?
Yes.
You don't need everything, right?
So But in Europe, it's normal to eat everything in order to show respect that everything was so delicious, and so that's why the situation.
So, do you think that was right?
Yeah.
You're going to give her a clap? Look, I had a nice sweatshirt.
Really? Thank
but
you.
maybe you share this with your friends because I know they helped or something. So, so that's a classic cultural misunderstanding. So something it is important to do. Right now I live in Switzerland, as I've said several times. And the culture in Switzerland is amazingly different from England. So maybe you imagine Switzerland as, do you think it's a tidy place? Yeah. It's not clean? Yeah. It's not. Swiss people, they throw rubbish on the street all the way, but because they pay so much to have people clean it up, it's beautiful and clean. But Swiss people drop a lot of rubbish. However, in Switzerland, if you cross the road when the little man isn't green, every Swiss person's like, and then you see them with their children that don't do what the silly man did, you know, you're in big trouble. In England, everybody crosses the road all the time, right? In Switzerland, right? Okay, take a guess. Switzerland or England? Which of these places is it okay to drink alcohol in public, especially on public transport? Which? England or Switzerland? Switzerland. Okay. How about America? What do you think? America, is it okay to drink public transport? No, completely illegal. And I speak as somebody who has made that mistake. Okay. The policeman came over and he said, "Oh, you got drinks?" I'm like, "Yeah, look." When my friends came to get me, they explained I was foreign, so it was okay. I didn't go to jail. But you need to learn a little bit about the place and its cultures, and also give a little bit of cultural distance. So that's important. But don't forget, at the same time, who you are. You know, you need to be proud and individual of your country. And I know I made a little joke about uncomfortable. Great to pronounce that back. But it always, in the workplace, if you're trying to be an interpreter, of course you want to be very clear in your English and so on. But if you have a small aspect of Russian accent, and your handwriting is going to look very Russian, trust me, as well. Those are your personality as well, and your heritage and so on. So do treasure that a little bit. So don't try and destroy every bit of your own nationality in there. That's still important because you have an identity to project. That's important, so you know who you are. But try and be very wary of these kind of cultural pitfalls that can befall you in the workplace. So think about that. And generally, to go back to what we said before, in an international workplace these days, communication and even conversation is valued hugely because they want you to be communicating what we call, in the workplace we have horizontal communication, right? And we also have vertical communication, right? But then we also have random communication, right? So if you chat with other people in your workplace, you're able to form different work groups from time to time and different tasks and projects. If you're in copywriting, you know what the graphic designer does because you chatted with her over coffee. You know what the people do who work with digital marketing, even if you're not in digital. So it's important to be able to network around the company by open conversations in the company. So it's the workplace can be quite a rich, exciting international place to be, to have these conversations, as long as you're open to it. So be open, be yourself, but also be a little bit wary about stuff. I've jumped around a little on my slides because we did have a bit of a talk beforehand, but I'm also conscious that I guess you might have some questions. So I'm very happy to give you 5 minutes just before we wrap up to answer any questions you might have.
How many languages do you speak?
I speak English properly. I speak what we like to call in England schoolboy French. I kind of speak getting better German. And Czech as well, a little bit, and tiny Chinese and Japanese. So I think maybe only 4, maybe. Yeah, a little bit.
Thank you.
My Russian is terrible, so don't ask me any more Russian questions, okay?
English is terrible.
Okay, any more?
So, what are the easiest way to find a job abroad?
I think that's about getting out there and about getting noticed and having a good profile. I think that's very important. I know that we don't necessarily have tools like LinkedIn here, which other people use, but it's very important, I think, to build a broad CV so that when you do start approaching employers, you've got something to say about you. And this is about being looking for opportunities, but when you go for an opportunity, you don't just want to send them a resume, a CV, you also want to give them a good idea of what you've been doing. And these days, employers will try and check online and look for stuff, and they'll Google your name, right? They'll look, because employers are old, they'll look on Facebook and things like that, right? They're not just going to be going for sort of LinkedIn and stuff like that. So do try and have some presents you can send, some maybe links to anything you've done. That's very important. And try and think about things that you can be involved in, which are things that are close to any passions that you have. So if you're passionate about travel, be sure you can show something about travel or talk about travel. If you're passionate about maybe volunteering or voluntary teaching, it doesn't have to be, in some school in Nepal. It could be working at the local school down the road or something. It could be, helping a local group of school kids to read, or spending time volunteering. So these kind of things are very important. So I would say, rather than how to make a best first contact, which I think is about looking at job boards, setting up alerts and things like that. If you can set up alerts in your fields, have searches going on, follow big employers that you're interested in working with, but also have something very rich to say. I'm not going to talk about CVs, that's a whole other workshop, but you do want to catch the information and imagination of big companies, or they just see a CV of someone who's brilliant at languages, and it's not enough. You need to have something to say. Yes?
How do you think, is it possible to work abroad if you have a Russian diploma?
Yes. Definitely yes, because I know I have several friends in Switzerland who are Russian or partly Russian in some different ways and can work in Switzerland. But there's usually a lot of paperwork, right? There's a lot of paperwork for me to even get a visa in Russia, but it's doable. Yeah. So in our company in Zurich, we have people. You won't always find a foreign company who will sponsor you to come over. So maybe you have to be creative and do things yourself and take some lesser paid work and be open to looking. But I think get yourself in the workplace, and you can certainly work even in Switzerland and UK with Russian qualifications and so on. To have sometimes if you want to go to foreign university and so on, you maybe need an access year because of the number of years, but that's a little different. But workplace, your Russian qualifications won't be rubbish. Okay.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Dr. David, you have said that you travel all over the world, and what country do you like most?
Ooh, nice question. I think my most excited memories have to be from New Zealand. There's a lovely place called Hot Sands Beach, where you can go and you dig the sand in the beach in the morning before the sun comes up, and it fills with hot water. And so you make your own jacuzzi on the sand, and you jump in the sand, you jump in the jacuzzi, and then the waves come in slowly, and the sun rises, and the sun rises over the horizon, and gradually the waves come and fill in the pool where you are, and then it's cold, and then you swim in the cold water, and then you go up and have breakfast on the beach. So that's my story for that. That's the question. Yes?
So your tips to make better English pronunciation for Russians?
Mm-hmm. Ooh, that's another long talk, I think. But let me see. Often, I think one thing that I hear a lot when I do hear Russian speaking is often the stress. And I know stress is very important in the Russian language where you put it. It's also very important in English language. And very often in two-syllable words, the stress in the English one is on the second syllable. And we hear that a lot from Russian speakers on the first one. So you might say something like upstairs instead of upstairs. Yeah? And here's a big hint, the linguists amongst you can write down, right? If it's a prepositional part of the word, it's never going to have stress. Right? Prepositions don't. Adverbs do. That's an adverbial particle. In a phrasal verb, it might. But in a compound word, we never stress the like in, out, up, down that you see in a lot of compound nouns. And so put the stress on the second syllable. That would be I think the easiest tip. The other tip are the R's, I guess. right? Easy thing about English R's, you hardly ever hear them, right? Most of the time, the letter R in English, particularly after a vowel like A or E, is a lengthening sign. It's the same if you know your IPA as the 2 dots after the IPA symbol. In British English, forgive me. In American English, they're going to say car, right? I have to do the I's as well, car, right? But in British English, you're going to say car, right? Or farm, right? Or mermaid instead of mermaid, right? This kind of thing. So the R, British English here is easier. It's your friend, because the R is just a lengthening sign. Whereas in Russian, you've got a lot of these kind of quite glottalized, or this kind of sounds, right? Which are, if you try to put those in English words, it doesn't sound quite right. So just look out for the time when you don't need the R at all, and you can throw it away. That would be another tip. Okay, so 2 tips. Right. Yes.
What is your motivation to learn languages, and what can you recommend us?
I don't think I'm a great language learner, honestly. I think I like to think I'm good at teaching, but and I like to learn other things, and I like to learn about pedagogy, but I don't think I'm a great language learner, which is good, because if something motivates me, I get quite excited about it. So right now, I don't know, I like to learn German with a lot of apps. And things that I can see little points and look, I've got more, so it keeps me doing my 15 minutes on the train in the morning, my 15 minutes on the train home. I get that little practice every day, and a little bit every day, and feeling I'm making progress is good. But I find I learn a language best when I have some emotional connection with it. So actually my Czech is really quite good, because I spend a lot of time talking to good Czech friends. I used to go climbing, running, eat out, and really had a connection. So I think if you've got some genuine connection, the language learning just comes along naturally. But if you're not really in love with the language, it's a lot harder. So again, 2 answers for you. Thanks for the question.
If a person wants to move to another country, is it necessary for him or her to get an education or a diploma of that country? Is it valid more by the employers than the diploma of his or her native country?
I'm sure it varies from country to country. The diversity right now in the workplace is very much valued. So this idea that you have people from different places with different ideas and different perspectives. So a lot of startups thrive on people who've come from different cultures. And to be honest, most of you, as you go into the international workplace, will work in smaller and smaller companies. Right? We all dream of working for Google. Sorry, I don't dream of working for, I didn't say that. We all dream of working for mega companies. Like I said, EF's got thousands of employees. But many of you will end up working in small startups, and they, for stability, want very diverse teams. So they have different ways of thinking about things, so they can reach different markets and so on. And because of this, because of the idea, very often you will be representing someone who wants to reach a kind of Russian market or an Eastern European market or whatever. They will value you for yourself as much as your qualifications, and where you've come from will be as much part of the story as what you have. But it's quite easy to recognize international qualifications, but I think there are still places that open doors, right? So if you go to Stanford or Harvard, job done, right? So there are certain places that people want to go for the power of that, and things like MBAs are always very, very powerful. But generally speaking, where you're from really helps you get a job as much as qualifications, I think.
What did you visit any place here, and what do you like?
My entire exploration of Sevastopol is running along the side of the water. This morning I went for a jog before I came here, and I saw a little round, and it was kind of grey and misty, and it looks like it's going to be quite touristy. But I don't know if that means today, if they're going to wake up and come out now the sun's up, or if that's a more touristy time of year. These kind of colonial buildings look very lovely, very white, and we took a drive from our hotel to here around these cute little windy streets with the cobbles, so it felt a bit like being almost in Lisbon in Portugal or something. So I think it's going to be quite interesting, but my colleagues have to show me more tonight. So I'm intrigued, but I didn't get a good view yet. Okay? So you have to ask me that next time I come back and see how my ideas changed. Can I take one more? Yeah, nobody's in a hurry, so yes.
Why did you live in Switzerland, not in England?
Actually, my whole team was moved from England to Switzerland because I work for such an international company, and we are in how many countries do we say we're in now for offices? Like 100. So 116 countries around the world is quite a lot. So we have representatives from all these countries. So of course, in terms of money and international communication and how things connect together, actually Switzerland is better connected than the UK. It's not an English company. EF is a Swedish company, founded in 1965. It's not a public company. It's actually owned by a Swedish family. Our big boss likes to spend a lot of his time in a nice hotel in Switzerland, and we have meetings there from time to time. And so although it's a very huge company, there are almost like personal company reasons for being in Switzerland. The Swedish people, there's a lot of Swedish employees, feel that Switzerland is a bit like home, but more in the centre of Europe. So I'm very lucky. My employer asked me to move to a country where I didn't speak the language. So now I have to use a bit of German to kind of get around and stuff. But it wasn't, David, you can speak German, so you can go to Switzerland. It was, the job came first.